define yourself. Don't let circumstances define you. Don't let other people define you. You must define who you are. But if you don't, others will.
Welcome to the brand new episode of Wish I Knew That Before. I'm your host Amit Pandey, and here we bring on guests from different walks of life to answer questions, discuss ideas that can really help a young adult navigate the journey of life a bit better. Our guest for today's show is the 1992 world champion of public speaking, author of 4 books on personal development and how to experience a meaningful life. In his quest to inspire, he has traveled across the world, giving over 2,000 speeches, speaking on performance excellence, benefiting from change, overcoming challenges, to audiences from corporate executives to kindergarten students, from religious congregations to prison inmates. His plethora of accomplishments would surprise you even more if I tell you that he is blind. At the age of 4, running backward one day, he fell on his head, resulting in him losing his eyesight. Growing up with 11 brothers and sisters, he would often hear them say, "You can't do that, you're blind." However, he never let that stop him. A non-believer in giving excuses, he went on to become the first blind student to ever graduate from Yale, pursuing BA in math and law degree from USC. At just the age of 16, he started giving inspirational speeches in churches. And from past 12 years, he has coached and mentored countless young kids on how to become a better speaker. As a blind man in the sighted world, through his book, The Soul's Mirror, he shares his reflections on how to live an abundant life, finding your purpose, principles of success, and much more. A true believer and proponent of leading with love. A speaker who not only can bring tears to your eyes, but even has the ability to make you laugh your guts out. A father to 4 and a mentor to many. Please help me in welcoming the author of Making the Moment Meaningful, the resilient Mr. Dana LaMon. Yay!
Thank you, Amit. For a while, I was listening to that. I wasn't sure if that was me you were talking about.
That's all you, Dana. That's all you. Thank you so much for accepting my request and coming on the show. It truly means a lot. When I was visualizing or coming up with the list of guests that I really want to bring on the show that have truly inspired me, it was a no-brainer. Within 1 second, I just got the thought that Dana, it has to be Dana, the first guest. And I'm excited that the wisdom that you shared with me in the past, I'm super excited to broadcast it to the world and learn from it. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
My pleasure.
All right. So, Dana, as I mentioned and introduced in the introduction, that at the age of 4, you lost your eyesight by running backward. But what really made me curious that started giving speeches at the age of 16 in the churches and started to inspire other people. I'm very curious to know what happened between those 12 years. How did you come to terms with your blindness? And how was the journey from there on to actually going and inspiring other people when you were just 16 years old?
The 3 major aspects of my life between age 4 and age 16 was living with my family, going to school, and going to church.
Mm-hmm.
My family is quite large, as you indicated in the introduction, but I went to school with my brothers and sisters for part of the time, because though I became blind immediately at age 4, I had an operation on my right eye, and that restored sight. So I was able to read regular print for 1 year of school.
Mm-hmm.
And then after that 1 year, I lost some of that sight. And so I had to read large print for 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
Then I lost some more sight and had to start reading Braille. At the same time, I started going to church.
Mm-hmm.
So I think two things principally. One was that losing sight as I saw it was a gradual thing.
Mm-hmm.
And so there was less trauma attached to it. I don't remember the going completely blind at age 4 from the fall.
Mm-hmm.
What I remember is being able to see for that period of time right after the surgery. And then over time, I gradually lost it. So it made it easier to adjust to it.
Right.
But on top of that, at church, one of the Bible verses that we were required to memorize
Mm-hmm.
said, I can do all things through Christ which strengtheneth me. So memorizing that verse instilled in me the notion that I can do. There was nothing that was going to be impossible for me. As I can remember, I didn't even think in terms of, well, maybe that doesn't apply to me because I'm blind. I
Mm.
thought it applied to me, no matter who I am, no matter what my condition is. I think those two things, the gradual loss after the first surgery and the upbringing in church with that notion that I can do all things,
Mm-hmm.
made it easy for me to adjust. No, I suppose I should add a third thing.
Right.
Because I came from a large family,
Right.
my parents didn't have the time to dote over me or to treat me as though I was disabled or I was helpless.
Right.
I was
Right.
given responsibilities in the house just like all the other kids were. So
Mm-hmm.
I think that was crucial too. I mean, because I met blind students as I went through school, I met blind students whose parents treated them
Mm-hmm.
as though they were blind. My parents did not treat me as though I were blind.
I think that's a very powerful point that you bring up. Firstly, the operation, after that the eyesight, losing the eyesight was a bit gradual, but one of the most powerful point that I feel was your parents, and they didn't see you differently. I'm very curious, Dana, like, a lot of times in life, what happened to you is such a big deal. You lost your eyesight, and eventually, you were so young. It's such a cream year for a lot of people in their life, and you were struggling with something else. Definitely your parents played a huge role in that. But I'm curious, what went through your mind? Why didn't you ever throw in the towel, that why didn't you crib? I'm super curious to know that.
I didn't see blindness as being a problem.
Hmm.
I didn't see myself as being different from other people. So if I were going to throw in the towel, I would be throwing in the towel just in life. And of
Yeah.
course, there are people who do that, but
Yeah.
I hadn't reached that stage.
Hmm. Got it. Got it. But this also brings up another important point, Dana. What happened when your reality changed? Did you experience, like coming to your blindness as well? When you started to do stuff in your life, did you feel that, for any moment, that, oh, maybe I might not be able to do this thing, this thing, this thing? Maybe few people doubted you a lot, that, oh, it's Dana, he might not be able to do it, he's blind,
Well, a lot of people doubted me.
yeah.
What I heard a lot of when I was growing up is he's blind, he can't. A lot of
Yeah.
people said that.
Yeah.
And then throughout my life, at all stages, all the way up to getting a job, when I first got my job working as an administrative law judge, there
Yeah.
were still people who doubted
Yeah.
what I was capable of doing because of my blindness.
Right.
So it wasn't an issue of adjustment for me. I always had the confidence that
Hmm.
I could do it. I always had this within me that, okay, if I'm blind, all I have to do is figure out an alternative
Yeah.
to doing what I wanted to do.
Right.
It is the biggest issue for me was convincing other people
Hmm.
that it can be done.
Hmm. Right. Right. So
Well,
how?
and
Yeah.
also my mother said I was stubborn. I was a stubborn kid. In fact, she said it so often when I was growing up, and I thought maybe stubborn was a dirty word. She said, "You're so stubborn." I would hear, "You're
Yeah.
so stubborn." Well, what I've learned is being stubborn is what helped me accomplish what I accomplished, particularly because if people said, "Oh, you can't do that,"
Yeah. Yeah.
then the stubbornness would come up in me and say, "Yeah, just watch and I'll show you."
Ooh. Like we wait and watch, wait and watch. I'll show it to you. And but I'm very curious, like why was it important for you to prove other people wrong?
Because people thought he's blind, he can't. I thought it was important to show them differently. It was more from an educational point of view. It was my thinking that you shouldn't be the one to decide what I am capable of doing. Only I should be able to decide that,
Hmm.
especially when we're talking about limitations. I mean, if you want to encourage me to go beyond what I think I can do,
Hmm.
then your input is important. But
Hmm.
when it comes to the other direction, if you're trying to limit what I can do, then my response is going to be only I can determine what limits me.
Oh. And how did that thought came into your mind? Because to be honest, my journey in personal development started way late. When I came to US after I was around like 22, 23 years of my life, I really felt I lived very unconsciously, and I was very I should say I was very less observational. I just lived the life as it came to me, and I didn't think too much about these things. All my beliefs, all my values, where I'm getting a bit crippled in my life. I just thought it's just part and parcel of life. And I didn't question a lot of instances in my life where I felt a bit limited by others. How did these thought process took roots in your mind that this is what I won't allow anyone to put limits on me?
It's interesting that you pose the question the way you have,
Okay.
and it's as I think about the answer, I think about a weakness that I had when I was growing up, and how did I come to question things. The weakness I had was in asking questions, believe it or not.
Mm-hmm.
I I wouldn't ask questions. I would remain silent. But I wouldn't ask questions because I didn't want others to know what I didn't know.
Hmm.
So when I started the School for the Blind, for example, and we had a classroom of, let's say, 10 blind students,
Mm-hmm.
the teacher would ask questions, science questions, geography questions, history questions. And the other students knew the answers. I mean, they
Right.
would raise their hand. Yeah, oh, call on me, call on me. And I'm thinking, don't call on me. I don't know the answer to that. And I also wouldn't ask questions. But what I would do is remember what the question was or remember what the issue was. And I started studying whatever I could get my hands on. I would study and research.
Right.
Now, that was what was happening in school. At the same time, I was going to church.
Right.
And in church, they're teaching about God. Well, one of the things that they were teaching is that you don't question God.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I accepted that. God is huge. You don't question God.
Mm-hmm.
But I started observing behavior of some of the teachers in church, and I
Mm-hmm.
started questioning them. I said, okay, I'm not questioning God. I'm questioning them.
Right.
And they didn't like
Uh-huh.
my questioning them. It bothered them that I wouldn't simply accept what they would say.
Right.
And so I found myself over time in school, I started opening up and asking questions.
Hmm.
And at church, I started opening up and
Hmm.
asking questions. And
Hmm.
that's got me to the point that I'd find myself sitting down and thinking about life, thinking
Oh.
about why things happened the way they did, maybe thinking about an event in the day and thinking, why did I react that way?
Hmm.
And that's when I started coming up with some of these thoughts, some of these beliefs that helped me make it through.
Nice, nice. I love that. I love that the way you put it up, that a lot of it feels so natural the way you explained it, that initially I had the problem with asking questions, and later I realized that asking questions would eventually help you and yourself to become a bit more clear in life. So I really love the story and how it naturally transformed into the mindset and the beliefs that you had through reflections. So I'll share something personal, like what happened with me, and I think I'll come back to this question later. But one of the thing is, what I personally enjoy listening from you and talking to you is that a lot of what you say, you stand behind it because it came from your reflections, your experiences. And in my life, as I said, that for 22, 23 years, I was very unobservational. I didn't pay too much attention on what life is trying to teach me. And when the personal development journey started, I started to listen to a lot of other people, and I think I accepted their versions of success, reality, and this is what it is. But what I really enjoy listening to you is the way you stand behind your thoughts, the way you are so clear. And it makes so much sense that you spent a lot of time thinking about these things and reflecting about them, that what is life? What is life trying to teach me?
It's interesting that you
Yeah.
you talk about accepting other people's version,
Yeah.
because that is one of the things that I guess over time uh, I'd want to hear other people's versions, but if I were approaching something new,
Right.
I'd want to develop my own thoughts on it first,
Hmm.
and
True.
then I would start researching other people's version.
Yeah.
So when I first started doing motivational speaking as a professional,
Mm-hmm.
I did not listen to other motivational speakers.
Oh, interesting.
I did not. I wanted to develop, I'd say, okay, if I'm going to stand up and motivate someone,
Yeah.
what will I say to them? What
Yeah.
what comes from me? Because
Mm.
to me, it has to come from you if you're the one that's going to be standing up there and doing it. I mean, why would I have a Mitt just regurgitating to me what another speaker might say?
Yes.
I want to hear a Mitt's version of the world, the viewpoint. I was listening this morning even to a guy who's written a book about a philosopher, and he was talking about this one philosopher, Thoreau,
Mm-hmm.
who talked about looking at things from different perspectives. So even in his own environment, he'd stand in one position and look at a lake, for example.
Hmm.
And then he'd go to the opposite side and look at it from the opposite side. He would
Yeah.
actually kneel down and look at it. He actually tried he looked at it, he would stand and look at it through his legs to see it from upside down, because
Yeah.
he was talking about looking at the world from different perspectives
Hmm.
and how important that was. And that's the way I see it. So I want to look at it from my perspective. And after I think that I'm pretty solid on my perspective,
Mm-hmm.
then I'll start reading about other people's perspective.
Right. Right. Right.
Recently,
Mm-hmm.
I think it was Erica who said, maybe you had the advantage by not being able to see
Hmm.
because you weren't in a position to look across. She didn't say it quite this way, but this is the way I interpret it, to look across the fence to see that the grass was greener. you
Hmm.
I didn't have that. I didn't look at the neighbor and see what the neighbor had.
Hmm.
I looked at, you see, when you're blind, you're very local.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was thinking
Yeah.
about the other day, uh, when you're blind, if I drop something on the floor,
Yeah.
I have to get down on my hands and knees and I have to find the exact spot
Hmm.
where that thing is.
Hmm.
I can't glance. You, who are able to see, you simply glance at the whole floor, you take it all in at once,
Yeah.
and you say, oh, there it is, right? Because you've
Yeah.
taken the whole scene in at once. When
Yeah.
you're blind and you're using your sense of touch, you take the scene in little by little, every piece. You can't take the scene in globally. You have to be very specific. And so that's what it was about my life, I think, is taking the scenes in bit by bit, touch by touch, rather than look at things globally. And
Yeah.
then once you understand the very local situation, then you know how to globalize it. You can then share with other people and find out, oh, they've gone through that same experience,
Yeah.
and then you get your global perspective.
Yeah. Oh my God, that was such a beautiful moment the way you describe it. So this is what happens with me when I read a book, when I watch a video, and something that really touches me and it presents a unique perspective that I did not look at it from, and it really touches me. I just get tears in my eyes. And when you were talking about taking things little by little, I literally felt the chills. Oh my God, that was such a beautiful moment. And that's so beautifully said, Dana, that taking life little by little, not not looking at the neighbor's front yard and saying, complaining that, oh, their grass is more greener. Yeah, I think, yeah,
And it's the same thing happens when we get to the point, and I think everybody gets to that point,
yeah.
when we say, I want to make a difference in the world.
Hmm.
When I talk to kids, when I talk to adults,
Hmm.
I say to them, you are the difference in the world.
Oh my God. Okay.
What happens is that we get our ego gets in the way and we want to measure the difference. Well, the
Hmm.
world is so big, the universe is so big. If you think of it, if you try to look at the universe and then see what piece that you contribute, it looks so small, it looks so tiny, you compared to the universe. But if
Yes.
you look at just the immediate environment around you, don't look at, for example, I mean, just put it in
Yeah.
a real example.
Hmm.
If there are 50,000 people who are hungry,
Yeah.
uh, you might look at that and say, wow, there's no way I can feed 50,000 people. I don't have the resources or the time to
Yeah.
feed 50,000 people.
Yeah.
But do you have the resources and time to feed five?
Hmm.
If you feed five, you've contributed to the solution of the 50,000, because now there's only 49,995 people who are hungry. So you don't worry about the 50,000 that needs you and your input. You look at the five that are right there in front of you and just take care of that.
Yeah, yeah. No, that's such a great point. And what I hear from it is, as you said, people try to measure how much difference can they make, not looking at even a small difference. And small in whose eyes? A 10 might be small in someone's eyes, but 10 might be a big thing in someone else's.
Let me
So
tell
this,
you, for
yeah,
those five people that you feed,
yeah,
that's huge for them. That's the
exactly.
world to them.
True,
So
true,
you've made a
true.
difference to their world.
Yeah,
That's good enough. But I also say we shouldn't worry about trying to see how big the difference is,
yeah.
because we'll never be able to measure it. We'll
Hmm.
never be able to fully measure it. I concern myself only with making sure, as a mathematician, I understand a difference can be positive or it can be negative.
Right.
So my responsibility is not to measure the difference,
Yeah.
but to ensure that the difference is positive. I do have control
Hmm.
over whether I have control over whether or not the the difference is positive or negative. That I do have control over.
Right. Right.
And so I don't worry about the size of the difference. I
Hmm.
just concern myself with making sure that it is positive.
That's a beautiful way to put it. That's a beautiful way to put it. And especially bringing in the math analogy. I was actually waiting when you will bring some math analogy.
Good.
No, so I loved it that people should be concerned more about, are they making a positive difference or a negative difference, because that is very easily measurable. But the difference, the amount, the quantity that you're making, there's always someone who would be doing bigger things and bolder things than you. Then this quest that we get onto would never end. So concerning, yeah,
It's not only that they may do something bigger,
yeah,
because I don't believe in measuring what you do
right,
in order to determine the size of what I do.
yeah,
When I think of it, first of all, as I said, is you are the difference. But let me use an example. Uh, I had a neighbor named Maud
mm,
Riley.
hmm,
Now, Maud Riley would allow me to help her with chores around the house.
hmm,
And whenever she did, she quoted a poem.
hmm,
If a job is once begun, leave it not until it's done. Be the task great or small, do it well or not at all.
oh my god, nice,
In Maud's
nice.
mind,
Hmm.
she might have only been saying that to influence Dana
Yeah,
in her mind,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
And so she might look at it, if you look at it from Maud's perspective, she might look at it and says, I made a small difference. I mean, I quoted the poem to Dana, and it did help him in the quality of the work that he produced.
hmm,
What Maud may not know to include in the measurement of the impact that she had is that 34 years later, Dana wrote a book on excellence.
oh,
And that book sold thousands of copies.
yeah,
And that speeches on excellence were given in China, and Malaysia, and Canada, over half of the states of the United States. How many thousands of people have heard a message about excellence from Dana,
yeah,
who got it from Maud?
yeah, yeah,
Maud's quoting of that poem was a huge, much huger difference than she could see at the moment that she was quoting it. And that happens with all of us. That's why I said, don't worry about trying to measure it. Just make sure that what you do is positive, and then let the universe magnify it, amplify it around the world in whatever method it might be.
Yeah.
Might be in a speech that you give, it might be in a podcast that you have. In this very podcast,
Yeah.
somebody will listen to it, they'll hear that poem, and then they will recite it to their child, let's say.
Yeah.
Their child then becomes the president of the United States and
Whoa.
takes that principle. See, you never know where it's going to go. So uh, simply make your positive action, give your positive words, and let the universe take care of spreading it.
Yeah. I'm so glad that you gave an example. I think that's such a powerful example that you gave. And as you said, that this poem impacted you so much, you went on to write a book and sold thousands of copies, and you wouldn't even know that from those copies, someone who read it would have changed someone else's life. And that ripple effect, I mean, that is so huge. Measure your difference by how positive it is or whether it's positive, and you would never know in what ways it would change someone else's life. There's this holy book in India, it's called Bhagavad Gita. And in Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna, he, I might be completely wrong about this, but as far as I remember, he says that कर्म की चिंता मत करो, no, फल की चिंता मत करो, कर्म करते जाओ. So what it translates it into is, don't worry about the results. Just keep doing your work.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is exactly
Yeah.
right.
And I think, this like one of the big questions that I had in my mind when I was researching about how I want to address issues around this podcast, because my heart goes out to the young adults, because I feel I started to become more aware about my life at a very later stage. Few people would still say, oh, I'm still very young, but I feel that if this would have come a bit more earlier, I would have
You're still
been.
very young.
Yeah, I'm still. Yeah. I don't know why I say that I'm old. I'm 26 for everyone.
You're
But
still very young, yeah.
yeah, but one of the thing, Dana, that's very prevalent right now with the overuse of social media on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram, where everyone is posting something about their life. One of the modern day influencer, his name is Jay Shetty. He poses it as everyone is posting highlights of their life. They are not posting low lights of their life. you know so and also, if we'll go deep into the construction of these social media platforms, they are designed to keep you engaged, they are designed to make you addicted to that platform. And the comparison is so rampant, even though you don't want to do it. When you are not doing anything and just mindlessly scrolling the social media, a lot of subconscious comparison happens. So one of the things that I was reflecting on, that comparison only happens a lot when I won't say only, but comparison happens a lot when you are not doing anything. When you do and you're trying to be a bit more content with your own efforts, the comparison reduces down. But when you look at other people's life and you're not doing anything, comparison amplifies a lot. Would you say that's a kind of correct statement, or would you modify it in a different way?
I would say it is a correct statement. When you began the topic talking about the time we spend on social media,
Yeah.
the thought that came to me is, and yes, and we're spending so much time on social media that we don't spend time to reflect on our own lives. We're so busy sharing the fact that we're at Disneyland, that we don't reflect what we're encountering at Disneyland and what impact being at Disneyland will have on my tomorrow.
Yeah.
We're just so busy sharing, and but we've had that problem. It's the same. It's the magnification of the problem we talked about minutes ago.
Yes.
And that is about looking at the neighbor's yard and say, oh, look, the neighbor's yard is greener than mine.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So social media gives us the chance to say, look, my yard is green. I got green yard. Look, I got red roses. I got. And as though the game or the measure of success in life is whether yours is better than someone else's. And even in my speech on excellence, I talk about excellence is about comparing your performance today with what you did yesterday, not comparing your performance against what someone else did. Because your neighbor, your competitor, your colleague, your predecessor could have been doing a lousy job. And you could do a better job, but it would just be a better lousy job. It won't really be excellence because you haven't given your best effort.
Yeah.
That's why I don't compare myself to other speakers, for example. I don't say, well, I'm not speaking as often as they're speaking, or I don't charge a fee as high as their fee. I look at what I have done and see how I could do what I did better. And do I want to do it better? Is that the direction I want to go? See, I'm not. I'm looking for something different. For example, I told someone, if I got an email that said, I can show you how to increase your business so you can make millions of dollars, I would delete that email. If I saw an email that said, I can show you how you can use certain techniques or certain media on how to get your message out to 1 million more people. Say, oh, now you caught my attention. How do I get my message about meaningful living out to 1 million more people?
Right.
That I'm concerned with. And it doesn't matter to me whether I make $1 million in the process. Just let me reach the people.
No, makes sense. And so Dana, what would you say to a young adult? Because right now, as Erica, for people who are listening, she's a common friend of ours, and she helped us a lot to set up this podcast. So Erica, as you mentioned, that she came up with this thought that it's actually good that you're blind because you're not comparing yourself. But for young adults who are in this day and age where internet and social media, I heard this term, it's called, they are digital natives. They are just on the internet. It's part and parcel of our lives right now. How can they try to, because I understand on a philosophical level that you should look at your life, you should look at your efforts and look at how you can improve, but it's not that easy. How would you guide a young adult in this process for them to understand that measuring the difference positively, it's more important than the yardstick of how much difference are you making, or not comparing your, as you said, the lousy job of someone else, not doing that.
Yeah. I'm not sure that I have the answer to that. The answer that I would offer, I have to think about it now as to whether that would solve the problem.
Mm-hmm.
But one of the things that I recognize is that a lot of people don't know who they are
Yes.
and what they were placed on this earth to contribute. And
Mm.
I think if people understood better on who they are, and when I say understand better, I don't think it's so much that the creator says, you are X.
Mm.
And I think it's more of you get to define who you are. That's what makes us a unique creature of this earth. The apple doesn't get to define what it is,
Right.
but we do. We get to define who we are. And it wasn't until I think it was 2012,
Mm-hmm.
which means I was 60 years old, that I actually sat down and wrote down the
Uh-huh.
definition of who I am.
Whoa.
It would have been nice for me to do it before I was 60. I mean, I think sometimes, wow, how much more I could have accomplished if I had defined who I was 20 years
Right, right,
earlier
right, right. I
than
so
I
vibe with
did.
that.
I started using that definition
Hmm.
to evaluate what I did in a day, for example.
Hmm.
So I'll take my 8 principles of who I am,
Hmm.
and at the end of the day, I would evaluate. Okay, and so all I would do is recite the 8
Hmm.
elements of defining who I am, and then I think it would actually hit me.
Hmm.
Wow. So today, when you did X,
Yeah.
you were doing something inconsistent with who you are.
Yeah.
And that showed me where I needed to work, how I needed to work on myself to improve myself so that my behavior
Hmm.
is more closely aligned with how I define who I am.
Right.
Okay, so going back to your question
Yeah.
was, spending a whole lot of time on social media
Hmm.
and comparing yourself to other people.
Hmm.
Uh, the problem is in doing it, you're not defining who you are from within yourself.
Yeah.
You're defining who you are as compared to someone else.
True.
So the problem there is if you happen to be using the wrong measuring stick,
Hmm.
then you come up with the wrong result. If you define who you are from within yourself,
Hmm.
there's no way there's no way you would be using the wrong measuring stick because you
That's
would be using yourself.
yeah. That's very well said, Dana. I totally agree, and I think when I was reading your book, The Soul's Mirror, even I had this question that how can people stop comparing themselves a bit more less? And one of the things that I wrote after reading the entire page that you talked about this, that becoming clear about your own version of success. I wrote this thing that a lot of times I feel people don't know themselves enough to define what success actually means to them. You wrote very interesting thing in the book that even if your name is known in the household and you feel you're successful, you are successful. You don't have to go out there and be ultra famous. You don't have to go out there and be the best athlete. Define your own version of success. And I think one of the point that's coming from here, what you're insinuating, is spending time in reflection, spending more time understanding, reflecting about who you are, about your own life. So I'm very curious, Dana, like you said, you wrote a definition about yourself. What did you write, if you remember any major points from it?
What do you mean, if I remember?
Okay, so yeah,
I re-
so please enlighten us.
So understand the method that I use
Hmm.
is to come up with sentences that define me.
Hmm.
And when I originally did it, I came up with 13, but I condensed it to 8. I saw there was some repetition.
Hmm.
So the sentence structure is this: I am blank.
Hmm.
To, that's T-O, blank. In the first blank, you place a noun.
Hmm.
In a one-word noun, I have to emphasize one word now because some people will say, I am a teacher. When I said, no, you're not a teacher. That's your occupation.
Right.
You're not a teacher. All right. So, but in the second blank is a phrase that tells what the universe gets or
Hmm.
gains as a result of your being who you are. So here is mine.
Hmm.
I am spirit to live for the value of what is not physical, tangible, or material.
Hmm.
I am love to connect to others with care, kindness, and support. I am forgiveness to let go of blame and the pain of offense. I am possibilities to reach beyond the limits of what is
Hmm.
into the realm of what can be.
Hmm.
I am power to collaborate with others in making what can be a reality.
Hmm.
I am wisdom to discern positivity and expedience. I am gratitude to be responsible for and appreciative of every event of my life. I am excellence to perform with my best effort everything I do.
Wow.
Now you have Dana LaMon.
Oh my God, that is so powerful, Tara. And what fascinated me more about it is you focused on very important things that can come from within. Excellence, gratitude, love, and all
Forgiveness,
forgiveness.
power. Yes,
Exactly.
yes, yes.
Yeah. And those are the things that we can control. It's not that other people around us or the situation or the experiences, it's within our control, how we perceive it, how we try to manage them. And I think they are very good when it comes to defining your values and shaping your identity around it, because nobody else has the power to break it other than your own self,
Right.
you know?
And now
So,
here's
hmm,
how it works then once you define yourself.
yeah,
Um, if a situation comes up
yeah.
and it looks difficult,
Hmm,
you might confront a situation in the course of a day and
hmm,
you say, oh, I don't know. It's really something I want to do, but uh, I don't know if we'll ever be able to make that happen.
right.
See, if that happened to me during the course of the day, at the end of the day, and you very often when I lie
Hmm,
down in my bed just before I go to sleep, I recite those 8 statements of defining.
oh,
And what would happen to me then is when I got to I am possibilities,
hmm,
then I'd say, oh my gosh, and I was thinking all day long, this is something I don't know if it can happen. If I am possibilities, that means uh, I can be part of making that happen. So I put those two things. Those two things go together. Actually, I am possibilities and I am power. Right.
yeah,
So I
yeah,
believe things are possible, and I believe that I have power. But very often, I need to work with someone else, and that's why in the statement it says I am power to collaborate with others in making what can be a reality. Uh,
hmm,
Much of what we do on this earth, we don't do alone. There's
true.
very little that we accomplish that we could say, I did this all on my own.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I
Starting with,
agree.
how did you get here on the earth in the first place?
Yes. 100%, 100%. And How much do you believe in the power of collaboration?
Because of the way I think of it, it's 100% a belief. It's a belief that I rely on in everything that I accomplish.
Hmm.
The power of collaboration,
Hmm.
because there's nothing we can do on our own. Or the way John Donne put it is, no man is an island entire unto himself.
Yeah.
You need someone else's help. And then added to that, the fact that I am blind, I realize there's so much more that I can accomplish
Yeah.
if I get the help of someone else.
I agree to it so much. And I think when I was growing up, it was all about competition, competition, competition for me. How I can get one up or become better than someone else, because I was comparing a lot. With collaboration as well, you understand that other people are there to help you, support you, and you should take their help in order, if your aim is to get better in life, if you're struggling somewhere and that's not what you really want to spend your time, go find someone else. You know, there is power of collaboration. Yeah.
If we think of life as a zero sum game, then we
Game.
think of, competition,
Yes.
competition. I gotta beat this person.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't think of it that way. In
Mm.
fact, I think there's value in competition, because in competition, it causes you, or it can cause you, to reach down inside yourself and get a little bit more
Yeah.
than what you thought
True.
originally was
True.
possible, right? If
Mm.
you're running a race and you're the only person running, when your legs get tired, you
Yeah.
say, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
But if someone else is running
Mm.
and the issue is who's going to get to the finish line first,
Mm.
then you say, oh, wait a minute, I think I can go a little bit, one more step. I can do one more step. You reach down and you get the little bit more, the
Yeah.
little bit more. So
Mm-hmm.
to the extent that competition does that, then competition is good.
Yeah.
But in general,
Mm.
in our universe, you and me together,
Yeah.
competing against each other
Mm.
to the point that you fail and I succeed, or vice versa,
Mm.
that's not helping the universe at all.
True.
What helps the universe is I win and you win.
Yeah.
That's what helps the universe.
Yeah.
I have a nephew who has
Uh-huh.
autism,
Okay.
and he is an expert chess player.
Wow.
His parents take him to different parts around the world to
Mm-hmm.
compete in
Mm-hmm.
chess.
Mm-hmm.
And my brother told me, he says, I got upset with him because, he says, Jesse, he's good.
Yeah.
But if he sees that winning is more important to his opponent
Mm.
than it is to him, he'll let him win.
Whoa.
That's the way he likes the competition.
Right.
He likes playing chess,
Mm-hmm.
but it is not absolutely necessary for him to
Yeah.
win. It's to whom does it matter most? If it
Yeah.
matters most to you, then I'm going to let you win.
Yeah.
And I think that, for example, in education,
Yeah.
there shouldn't be competition.
Hmm.
We shouldn't be competing for knowledge.
Hmm.
And I got this idea a little bit from a professor I had at Yale,
Mm-hmm.
who said, I don't believe in plagiarism. I'm not worried about whether you footnote everything. He says, if you steal my car, I am deprived of my car. You have it and I don't have it.
Right.
He said, but you can't steal my idea
Hmm.
because I still have it.
Right. Right.
And what happens is now I have it and you have it.
Yeah.
And if you have it, I have it, Peter has it, Sally has it, Greg has it.
Hmm.
If everybody, isn't the world in a much better place if we all have the idea? Why do
True.
we hold the idea or withhold the idea from someone else unless you can pay me?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because nothing, to me, no idea, no thought is new in the universe. They're all out there in the universe. The difference is, at this point in time, Amit was able to reach into the universe of ideas, and he grabs this idea and brings it into consciousness for him.
Yeah.
Then if he turns around and says, and I can share this idea with you, Dana, if you give me the right amount of money,
Yeah.
he's not helping the universe,
Hmm.
because still he's the only one who reached into the universe of ideas. He's the only one that holds it. So how
Right.
does that benefit us? But if he shares it
Hmm.
with Dana, Dana might take that same idea. Hey, Amit, this is a great idea. What if we, and then together, we use our collective thought power and we reach into the universe and we bring out something even bigger?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. But there can be a lot of times issues. You said, oh, Dana would come back and say, oh, Amit, let's work on this idea. I understand that there is so much fear that I think, it also goes back to the point that people are very fearful that once in a while they might come across an idea and they want to hold it very dear, and they feel that that's their entire thing, they worked on it or they came up with the idea. But I very much agree with you on that I think pretty much a lot of ideas are a remix of something else. If we are speaking, if we are thinking, somebody taught us abcd, somebody taught us the idea of language and how to use it, so we always do better when we stand on the shoulders of giants. But in real world, what happens is, you said you might come back and tell me that, oh, Amit, let's work on this together, and that is very good. But how often does it happen in the real world, Dana, that someone would just steal your idea and build $1 billion company, let's say?
And that's, therein lies the problem.
Yeah, yeah.
We've come to a society in which we want to attach a dollar sign to
Hmm.
everything.
Right.
And we attach the dollar sign.
Yeah.
And my point is that by attaching the dollar sign, we are limiting what
Hmm.
man can accomplish.
Right.
And
Right.
we're limiting what we can accomplish because someone wants to accumulate. Someone has decided the measure of me and my success is how many dollars I have
Yeah.
or what's my wealth.
Yeah.
You take, for example, Jeff Bezos,
Hmm.
founder of Amazon, now considered the wealthiest man on the planet.
Right.
How does that help you and me for him to be the wealthiest man on the planet?
Hmm.
And how does it help him to
Hmm.
be the wealthiest man on the planet if
Hmm.
he owns $210 billion? What can he do with it in his lifetime?
Hmm.
What could he do in his lifetime? If he only had 1 billion, if he only had 1 billion and he spent $1,440 a day, it would
Hmm.
take him 1,900 years to spend it all.
Right. Right.
So multiplied, he doesn't have 1 billion, he has 210 billion. So multiply 210 times $1,440 a day.
Hmm.
So now we're into millions. He could spend millions a day, and
Yeah.
still it would take him 1,900 years to
Wow.
spend it.
Yeah. Yeah.
So holding dollars, how does that benefit you,
Hmm.
me, the universe.
Right. Right.
So we put our focus on the wrong thing. I think if we continue down that path,
Hmm.
we are thwarting the power that we could have in interacting in this universe.
True. True.
We're thwarting it
Yeah.
because we're focused on, does it translate into a dollar?
Yeah. No, makes sense, Dana. Makes sense. I totally agree with you on that. And I really feel, as you said, people focus too much on the money. And if they really have a product, if they really have an idea, and they think about what impact it can bring, what value can it add to other people's life, and they focus on developing one of the best products, one of very good products that they are happy, that they put their best effort in it, I think money would come in. It was, I think, Jim Carrey, who he's a comedian in comedian actor in Hollywood. He said he wants everyone to go and earn millions of dollars and realize that it is not the answer.
Yeah. It's a very important issue to me. I mean,
Hmm.
I'm just not, and I've never had, I tell people, I've never had a nose for money. I don't know how to, uh, because money has never been my focus. It's not what I'm looking for.
Yeah,
I'm looking for, first of all, I'm looking for happy. I'm
yeah,
looking for the enjoyment of life.
yeah,
We've been tricked into believing life enjoyment comes from uh, owning a house and a nice car and being able to go uh,
yeah,
travel anytime you want to and buy whatever food you want. We've been tricked into believing that that's
yeah.
what makes us happy. And as Jim Carrey points out, I'll be glad when you get to that point of having a million and you see it's not all that it's cracked up to be.
True, true,
Yeah.
true, true. I so agree. So it would be a fair statement to say that define your version of success. It also goes back to the point that I made during the personal development of my journey, that I was listening to so many other people, that my reality, my version of success, they would say hustle and grind. But what if I don't want to hustle and grind? I want to take it easy. What's my answers to those things? If I want to hustle and grind and really vibe with it, I should. But becoming clear about what you want is something that would really help you to craft your own version of success and would bring a lot of contentment in your own life, a bit more satisfaction. I remember reading your book, Soul's Mirror. And for the audience, I would say it has 122 topics that Dana reflected about life and different facets of it. And when I was reading it, I was wondering to myself, do I need to bring any other guest? Because Dana has 122 topics. I can get 122 episodes with just Dana. But what blew me away, Dana, in that book is the level of clarity that you had. One of the things that you pointed out is through your reflections, through your own reflections, learning from other people as well, but through your own reflections, you learned a lot of things about life and different facets of it and different areas of it. One of the things that you wrote in the book that was really fascinating was two universal laws. One was abundance of life, and another one was purpose of life. For abundance of life, you said we are born with it. Can you talk a bit more about what is abundance of life and why do you say we are born with it?
The abundance of life is joy, is love. That's the abundance of life.
Mhm.
So if that's what you have, you think about it, no matter where you are. If you're sitting on a park bench and you have no bed to sleep in, but you can say, but I have joy, I have love. That's abundance of life. You don't have the material things,
Mhm.
but you have that abundance.
Mm.
It, so it's the same. Or you take the guy, take the person who sits in the park bench with no home in which to live and says, I have joy, I have love. And you take the person who is living in a big mansion and who says, I'm not happy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Who's got the better life?
True.
So I think of abundance of life as you can have success. I'm not saying you can't have success, but the success, the accomplishments that you've made, the degrees that you hold, the property that you own, the position that you have are not in isolation. They're not empty. They bring you joy and they allow you to experience and share love. Then you're experiencing the abundance of life. If, on the other hand, you have property, you have money, you have position, you have power, but you don't have love.
Yeah. Yeah. No, makes sense. Makes sense. Yeah, and I think at the core you put love, joy, and even I vibe with that so much that without love and joy, the two most powerful experiences of human life, you know, how can someone live without it? And we have that from the day we are born. The situation and the experiences would decide, like I think you wrote it, the situation and the experiences, they decide how eventually am I going to lead an abundant life or not. So yeah, I think that's a great point that you bring up, Dana. You wrote another thing over there, that universal purpose of life. You wrote universal purpose of life is to help others experience fulfillment. Can you talk more about that?
I consider purpose as being one of the four pillars of meaningfulness in life. If you want to ask, is my life meaningful? One of the pillars you look at is, do I live with purpose? And purpose, I like to talk about it as being three-dimensional. You have incidental purpose, and that is the reason that you're doing the specific thing you're doing at the time. You have individual purpose, that is the purpose that specific action that you bring based on your talents. So, for example, Barack Obama as a political leader,
Right,
has an individual purpose different from Celine Dion as a singer,
right.
because they're both using their talents. And as so long as they're using them for the universal purpose, now I get to universal purpose, and that is to help others experience the fullness of life.
Yeah.
So that's ultimately it. The reason why Amit is here is to help others to experience the fullness of life. And one of the ways that he does it, and his individual purpose, is to create podcasts.
Right.
And the incidental purpose then is this particular podcast. What is its purpose? What does he want to achieve by it?
Right.
So that's the way I look at purpose. I've been thinking about purpose for a long time, and for a long time, I didn't know exactly. I didn't have much to say about it. I mean, because what I heard a lot in my early days of doing motivational speaking, people want to know, how do I find my purpose? How do I discover my purpose? And so I set out. I did some thinking about it, and then I started doing reading. As I told you, that's my method.
Right.
And so I chanced upon this book. I don't remember the title of the book. But I chanced upon this book, and I thought, oh, it's fascinating. This author has written another book, and I had my reader I said, read me the chapters. We were in the bookstore. I said, read me the chapters
Mm-hmm.
that he has in the book. Well, one of the chapters was finding your purpose. I said, oh, let's sit down and read that chapter. Because if that chapter, if it's good, I'm going to buy this book.
Yeah.
And I read the chapter and I put the book back on the shelf.
Yeah.
Because he didn't offer
Sneaky.
any more than what I already knew
Right.
about finding purpose. And that is, it's not an easy thing to find purpose, but
Mm.
part of the reason that we don't find it is we don't reflect enough on what our abilities are. Your purpose
Mm.
is within your abilities.
Yeah.
But the other reason is we have so many distractions that take us away from our purpose. And your purpose might be to dance.
Yeah.
You might be a youngster who wants to dance, and that might be your purpose. But your parents tell you, you can't make any money on dancing. You better go to school and get a degree
Yeah.
so that you can teach math or something that's going to make you some money.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so what is that young person being told? Your purpose in life is to make money.
Mm.
And that's where we've gone astray.
True. True.
So your purpose, this is an actual incident that happened. I was at my job working as an administrative law judge. And
Yeah.
one of the judges came to me, we'll call him by the first name. Vivian came to me and said, Vivian said, Dana, you need to talk to Diane. I said, why do I need to talk to Diane? He said, well, Diane's daughter is 16 years old and she dances and she wants dancing to be her career.
Mm-hmm.
And her mother is telling her, no, you can never make a living on dancing. You're going to have to get something else to sustain you. Now, the reason why Vivian wanted me to talk to Diane is at that very moment that we were talking, my son's job was that of a dancer. He was dancing on Broadway in Phantom of the Opera. And he was making more money than any of his other siblings at the time. So you can make a living dancing. Not a whole lot of people are going to make a living dancing. More people make a living teaching math than they do dancing. That's true. But you shouldn't discourage a person whose talents might be to dance and tell them, oh no, focus on English. Because you're now directing people away from their purpose.
True. I so agree. And I think a lot of my friends that I've spoken to in India, I think it's prevalent everywhere. But I think most prevalent in Asian countries, that it's all about the safe thing, the safe route.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that's not just Asian countries.
Yeah.
That's here in America too.
Yeah, and I think it makes sense because, I really feel that the parents operate from the best that they know. But that's the thing, the best that they know is the best for their kid. That's something the parents should reflect on. And I think this generation, like my generation, millennial, or the younger generation, I don't remember the exact name what they call, I think Gen Z's, I don't remember, but I feel we are very comfortable generation because our parents or our grandparents, a lot of them had survival on their stake. For us, survival is not too big of a challenge. Our parents went through that struggle. Now for us, we shouldn't repeat the same thing. We shouldn't make our kids go and say and tell them that, oh, go for the safe route. Because here's the thing, like, I truly believe in the concept that as humans, there are so many things that we don't know. And we would only know it when we do something about it, go learn something about it, or try it out. So I so agree with you on that young kids, if they have the talent, they shouldn't be discouraged. And in any way, if we can help them achieve that, because ultimately they might, through their dance, might help someone else because they are living their life purposefully. And that would inspire someone else.
Other thing about purpose also, though, is that, we're not like other elements of nature.
Right.
the purpose of an apple tree is to
Hmm.
produce apples.
Right.
And it's going to remain the purpose of the apple tree to produce apples for the rest of the existence of that tree.
Yeah.
That apple tree is never going to produce bananas. It's not designed to do that.
Right.
We are designed that our purpose varies depending on the stages of our lives
Yeah.
and depending on the circumstances in which we find ourselves.
True. True.
So for 29 years,
Hmm.
I worked as a judge.
Yeah.
I'm not working as a judge anymore.
Yeah.
I've along with working as a judge, I picked up and started a business as a motivational speaker.
Right.
And I continue to do the motivational speaking.
Hmm.
But I also volunteer now at schools. I've been volunteering at schools for a number of years.
Right.
So purpose can be multifaceted. You can have 3 or 4 purposes running on, three or 4 tracks running at the same time.
Yeah.
They can change. At some point, one ends and another begins. That's the beauty of being a human. And so when we think of purpose, when we talk to youngsters,
Hmm.
your generation, the generations coming behind you,
Hmm.
don't think of it in terms of this is what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my life.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to be doing now, and and who knows what I'll be doing the rest of my life. I talked to a young lady who just graduated from high school,
Hmm.
and she said to me, she says, "I'm not sure what I want to do." And she's speaking life, because people are talking about, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to be a teacher.
Yeah.
She said, "I'm not sure." I said, "That's great. You don't have to be sure about what you're going to be doing 20 years from now." I said, when I was 18 years old, I had an idea of what I would want to do.
Right.
But when I reached 38, I wasn't doing it. Because as you progress in life, you gain more information. And with that additional information, you make better decisions.
True.
So I said to her, don't worry about whether you know what you're going to be doing 5 years from now.
Yeah.
Just have a goal for 1 year from now.
Yeah.
As long as you have something that's going to keep you moving forward.
Yes.
That's the important thing.
Oh, 100%. I think that's such a powerful thought, Dana, that moving the needle is so important. I have personally realized in my life that I can procrastinate a lot of things. I think my mind has optimized itself that, oh, you'll figure that out later, procrastinate. so it has happened to me a lot of times that I become lazy. I put it off towards the later end of it. But for this podcast, I did not know anything, even the P about this podcast. I should say I knew P about the podcast because I was listening to a lot of them, but not from the producer's perspective, not from the creator's perspective. And when I made an announcement that, oh, I'm going to be doing the podcast, one thing that I understood about myself when I reflected that if I overwhelm myself too much, that, oh, I'm going to be creating this in 1 month and this is how it's going to be, it will never happen. But how I can reframe this? So I went ahead and wrote on my whiteboard that I promise myself that even if I do one task a day to move the needle of this podcast, that would be good for me, because I realized that a weakness of mine is I can procrastinate. So let me turn it a bit. Let me just allow myself to get into the action, doing just one thing. There were days that I did just one thing. I wrote just one line. But for me, it was like, yes, that's fine. You promised, you did it. That is more important. And there were days where I thought I would just do one thing and I ended up doing 10 things related to the podcast. But the momentum kept me going. If I would have thought that, oh, I'll make this the biggest podcast in the world. No, like, stop. We might get there, but it's important that you think about what are you going to do next? What are you going to do tomorrow? Have big goals, but break them down into actionable steps and don't overwhelm yourself, because I think maybe down the line, a lot of people would change their profession. Maybe down the line, if I'm not really enjoying this podcast, if I'm not really vibing with it, not really doing it well, I might switch it. I might do something else. You don't have to, as you said, you are not an apple tree. You are not a banana. You know, you have more layers to yourself. So don't worry about that, just holding yourself and you cannot change. Don't think about it. Go out there, express yourself, have goals, but break it down into smaller chunk of actions. And that's very well put up, Dana.
And for success, you don't, because you happen to switch,
Yeah.
doesn't mean that you failed. It
Yes.
just means you
Yes.
made,
Yes.
with additional information, you made a better decision consistent with
Yeah.
who you are.
Yeah.
So long as you're switching, I mean, some people might switch. Say, "Well, I switched because I could see I can make more money that way."
Yeah.
Well, if it didn't make you happy, then it was not a good switch. I talked to a young lady that I worked with
Yeah.
about eight years ago,
Mm-hmm.
and her goal when she graduated from high school, she's going to be a doctor.
Hmm.
She announced that. She told people she got accepted at Stanford. She's
Right.
going to be a doctor. Her
Yeah.
family tell their friends and relatives she's going to be a doctor.
Yeah.
She came from a very poor family,
Yeah.
and so they were excited their daughter's going to be a doctor. So
Yeah.
one of the things that they could see is if she's a doctor, that's
Yeah.
money. She's not going to
Oh.
be poor, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
the young lady, while she was in college, having an opportunity to go to Korea, South Korea, to visit,
Hmm. Hmm.
and she decided she wanted to major in Southeast Asian studies.
Whoa.
She didn't want to be a doctor.
Yeah.
And she called me. She
Yeah.
was really perplexed by it all. And I said, "What do you want to do?" She says, "I want to be a I want to major in Southeast Asian studies."
Hmm.
She said, "But my parents want me to be a doctor. They've told the friends and family and relatives, and they really want me to be a doctor."
Mm-hmm.
I said, "Do you want to be a doctor?"
Right.
She said, "No." I said, "Then you shouldn't be a doctor, because I'm going to tell you, I don't want you as my doctor if you don't want to be a doctor." And nobody would want her as a doctor if she didn't want to be a doctor. How well would she perform that job if it was something she didn't want to do?
Yes. Yes.
See,
Yes.
so it's important that you have a goal.
Yeah.
It's important that you have a dream.
Hmm.
But you also, with your goal and with your dream, you have to have flexibility,
Flexible.
so that as you gain more information, as you change your circumstances,
Hmm.
you find, I don't want to do this, or
Yes.
I would rather do that, or maybe I'd rather. I mean, it could be, not so drastic. It could be that you thought, I'm going to be a criminal lawyer,
Yeah.
and then you decide, no, criminal law is not for me. I
Yeah.
think I'll do estate planning or
Yeah.
something of that sort. I mean, my second child went to school,
Mm-hmm.
and we paid lots of money for her to do it,
Yeah.
to study sports management.
Hmm.
And after graduating with a degree in sports management, decided, I don't want to do sports management. Well, did I, as dad, say, "Hey, I just paid $150,000 for you to get a degree in sports management. You're going to do sports management"?
Did
No,
you? No.
no. What is it that you want to do?
Yeah.
And so that's the way I handle my children. What is it that you want to do? So I don't have any lawyer. I have 4 children.
Yeah.
None of them are lawyers.
Right.
I have one son who told me once, he says, I'm thinking about going to law school. That's what he said, 7 years ago, 8 years ago.
Yeah.
Right now, he's working at a bar and having the time of his life. He's happy.
Nice.
And in fact, I asked him, I said, are you still thinking about being a lawyer? He said, well, Dad, I'm really making a little bit too much money right now to stop to go to law school.
Right.
He's enjoying himself.
Yeah.
That's the important thing.
Yeah.
And I have another child she just turned 29. She's a math teacher,
Right.
high school math teacher.
Mm-hmm.
And she liked teaching math. She's been teaching since she's finished school.
Yeah.
But she's thinking that maybe she wants to do something different.
Yeah.
And that's okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to think of it. There's nothing that says that once you sign up to be a math teacher, you must be a math teacher for the next 40 years. I mean, we used to do that back in the 50s. That's what people thought. Once you get a job, you got to be doing this until you retire. That's not life now.
Right.
So that's and so people have to think, youngsters should feel comfortable with thinking that way, that I don't have to do this for life. I do this right now. I enjoy it right now. And when I stop enjoying it, I'm going to go do something else.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's why I get excited when I have a friend who is working at a job, making over $100,000 a year. But she quit the job for two reasons. One, it was involved in the defense industry, and she didn't like the idea that she was contributing to making war. But the other thing is, she wanted to be a writer.
Ooh.
She wanted to focus on writing. So she quit the job. She eventually went to school and got her degree in creative writing.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
So go from aerospace engineer to creative writing.
Ooh. Nice. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong with that. I so agree with that. And I think at the crux of it, a lot of times, youngsters might sway from one profession to another. Definitely, they are confused. But at the crux of what you're saying is switch for the right reasons. Switch because you really feel that that's your calling, that's your purpose, that's where you want to go. Switch for right reasons. It would definitely reap you a lot of benefits. Confusion is good. Confusion should be there. Yeah.
And the other thing I also have to add is, but you don't quit in the middle of anything.
Interesting.
Because if you quit in the middle of something, then you're going to lose confidence. You'll start as you look at yourself, you'll start thinking, I don't finish anything. I've not accomplished anything. So you don't quit in the middle of it. I decided that I wanted to go from math to law, but I still got my math degree.
Yeah.
In other words, I finished it. So set for yourself small, chunky goals.
Yes.
Right? That you can complete.
Yeah.
And you complete those, because the completion of a goal builds the confidence for you to move on to whatever else you decide to move on. 100%. So I don't want to suggest to anyone, and in particular youngsters, like, okay, so you did 3 years in college, you're in your senior year, I'm going to quit this, I don't want to do this. No, finish that and then go ahead and switch. When I graduated from high school, when I was in my senior year at high school, here was my plan. Bachelor's degree in math from Yale.
Yeah.
Master's degree in math from Harvard. Doctor's degree in math from MIT.
Right.
Massachusetts Institute of Technology.
Right.
That was my plan.
Yeah.
And so I start off and I go to Yale. But in my senior year at Yale, I decided I don't think I want to stay in math. I'm going to go to law school. So I finished my math, bachelor's degree in math at Yale, and then I switched over to law. So I still had a completion, right?
Hmm.
I didn't quit
Hmm.
because the only part that I was already engaged in, I had already been accepted at Yale. So I finished that. I hadn't applied to a master's degree in Harvard. It wasn't time. So my decision, I took a different road and I applied for law school instead
Yeah.
and went that route. So it's important not to quit in the middle of something.
Hmm.
Now, if you have a concern about, how long do I spend on this before I move on, then
Hmm.
that's why I say have some short, chunky goals if you need to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's why I counsel that young lady in high school, 2 years. Tell me what you want to do in 2 years. Don't tell me what you want to do in 5. Tell me what you
Yeah.
want to do in 2.
Right.
And
Right.
you accomplish those 2, and then we take the next step after that.
That's a great advice for any youngsters listening to this. I really feel that's a great advice to pay attention to, because it's so prevalent and I've heard it so much from my peers or the youngsters behind me, is that they are always confused about where to go. Are they in the right field? Before you want to quit, decide on few chunky goals, as Dana said, that make it the short term goals, that whether let me just work it out, because that confidence that you didn't quit is going to be very important in other things that you do. All right, so Dana, before I ask my last questions, what is Dana LaMon up to in his life? Like, what's next in Dana LaMon's life? And also, where can these guys listening to you can follow your work?
Let me answer the easy question.
Okay.
DanaLamon.com. If a person visits www.danalamon.com,
Hmm.
they can listen to speeches that I've done, excerpts of speeches. You can order books,
Yeah.
CDs, DVDs. I got to get away from that. I mean, you got to remember I'm old, so the youngsters probably don't talk about CDs too much these days.
Yeah.
And I'm working on offering it as a downloadable presentation.
Yeah.
Those are the things I'm working on in terms of my professional speaking.
Yeah.
But besides that, I am involved. One of my students talked me into getting involved in a politics. So
Hmm.
I just recently had an unsuccessful run. Well, I'm gonna take that back. I'm
Yeah.
gonna take that word back.
Yeah.
I just recently ran for state senate.
Hmm.
I came in third place. I'm not going to call it an unsuccessful run. I
Right.
came in third place.
Right.
First and second moves on to the general election. I don't
Hmm.
get to move on to the general election. I
Hmm.
learned a great deal about our political system, our democracy, and I saw a lot of what could change to make things better.
Yeah.
But I am running for school board right now. That is
Hmm.
the office for which I'm running, because I want to contribute my knowledge, my experience to helping to set the policies
Hmm.
on how we educate our high school students today.
Nice. Nice. Yeah, and I would just like to add to what Dana said. His state Senate campaign, he's just being modest about it. He ran it independently with crowdfunding and still managed to come in third with a massive of over 21,000 votes. And that's definitely not a small feat. So,
Yeah.
yeah. But
Yeah, actually, even I wasn't even endorsed by the party. I finished just 6.6 percentage points behind the candidate was endorsed by the party. So
exactly. Exactly.
yeah,
So
but I learned a lot in the process,
that's
and
what it
that's the important thing.
100%. That's what it is, Dana. And that's a huge, huge lesson for everyone that's listening out there, that Dana at 68 is killing it. I feel I get that FOMO, fear of missing out, that he's running state Senate campaigns, education board, writing books, appearing on podcasts. That's the
Yeah.
thing. Even if something that quote unquote might not end up in a successful run, but what did you learn from it? It's super important. That's such a beautiful attitude to have in your life.
If you learn from it, it is a
100%.
success.
Oh,
It is a
exactly.
success.
Exactly. You learn from it.
It's
It is a
not the
success.
scheduled success, but it
Yeah.
is the success.
Lovely. Lovely. Wonderful, Data. So that brings me to my last question. If I give you a megaphone and you just have to shout out one message from it, a message or a lesson that you wish that you knew that before, but you know it now and you want to share it with the world, what message or that lesson would be?
Amit, I wrote a book on the subject, and I'm supposed to condense this into one message.
It's a tough question, I should say.
It is a tough question.
Yeah.
I would say what we talked about earlier,
Hmm.
and that is define yourself.
Hmm.
Define who you are. Don't let circumstances define you. Don't let other people define you. You must define who you are. But if you don't, others will.
Right. I think that is a powerful, powerful message, a lesson that it's worth shouting out from that megaphone. Thank you so much, Dana, for coming on to the show. And guys, this is the guy that I personally feel so privileged and I feel so grateful. My life has personally changed just interacting with him. He's such a beautiful soul. He leads with love and not just with words, but in his actions as well. Throughout the podcast, you would have seen the level of clarity he has and the wisdom that he has. Definitely go check him out on his website. I'll be linking all of them in the show notes and links to his books and other resources. But definitely go ahead, research him more. Your life will definitely be changed as it did for mine. With that, I would love to thank you, Reena. Thank you so much for appearing and granting the wish of mine and coming on the show. I'll definitely be bringing. I think definitely the audience would love to have you back. I will love to have you back. So we'll definitely bring you back and speak about other things like public speaking. That's another big forte of yours. Other few things about leadership. Definitely great topics to discuss and get your insights into. Thank you so much, Dana.
Been a pleasure, Amit. Thank you.